The mourning began before the emperor was even buried. Black silk curtains covered the palace walls. Musicians stopped playing. Servants whispered instead of speaking. Even the fountains in the royal gardens seemed quieter, as though the palace itself feared the death of the man who once ruled half the world. But for the women of the inner court, the emperor's death was not the end of suffering. It was the beginning. Because in certain ancient empires, palace women were forbidden from returning to ordinary life after an emperor died. They were expected to mourn him forever. Not for months, not for years, for life. Their imprisonment was disguised as loyalty and honor. One of those women was named Livia. She entered the imperial palace at 16, chosen from a noble family to serve among the emperor's companions. Like many girls brought into the palace, she imagined luxury and importance. The halls glittered with marble floors, golden lanterns, and perfumes drifting through endless corridors. But she quickly discovered the truth. The palace was not a home. It was a cage with beautiful walls. Every movement was watched. Every conversation could become dangerous. Even smiling at the wrong person could destroy a life. At the center of it all stood Emperor Cassian, a ruler feared more than loved. Most women in the palace barely spoke to him directly. They existed more as possessions than people. Then one winter morning, everything changed. The emperor died suddenly during a banquet. Some whispered poison, others whispered divine punishment. But within hours, the palace gates were sealed shut, and the women inside realized they were no longer free. According to imperial tradition, the emperor's companions and widows would now dedicate the rest of their lives to mourning him. They were forbidden from marrying again, forbidden from leaving the palace, forbidden even from wearing bright colors. Their identities would die alongside the emperor. The public called it a sacred honor, but inside the palace it felt like a living funeral. The women's jewels were removed first, gold necklaces unclasped, pearls stripped away, bright silks replaced with heavy black robes. Mirrors disappeared from their chambers because vanity was considered disrespectful to the dead ruler. Even music was forbidden. Some women begged to return to their families, but the requests were denied immediately. "You belong to the emperor forever," officials told them. Even in death, weeks became months, months became years. The palace grew quieter with time, almost ghost-like. Dust gathered in empty halls, while the women wandered through dark corridors like spirits trapped between life and death. Livia was only 19 when she realized she would likely die inside those walls. She would never marry, never hold children of her own, never walk freely through crowded streets again. The empire called her honorable, yet no one asked whether she wanted such honor at all. That was the cruelest part. Their suffering was celebrated. Poets praised the women for their eternal devotion to the emperor, but devotion forced by fear is not devotion. It is imprisonment. Over time, some women stopped speaking almost entirely. Others spent hours staring through palace windows toward distant mountains they would never reach. Then one rainy evening, years after the emperor's death, Livia entered an abandoned music chamber hidden deep within the palace. Inside stood an old harp covered in dust. Music had been forbidden since the emperor's funeral. Even hearing a melody was considered disrespectful to his memory. Slowly, Livia reached forward and touched the strings. A soft note echoed through the dark chamber. Then another, and another. For the first time in years, something inside her felt alive again. Witnesses later claimed guards heard quiet music drifting through the palace halls that night, like the sound of a forgotten soul waking from a long sleep. When officials discovered Livia, they punished her harshly. But by then, something inside her had changed. She no longer feared the palace because she finally understood the truth. A prison does not become sacred simply because people call it honorable. Livia died many years later within the imperial palace, still dressed in mourning black. History barely remembered her name. To the empire, she was simply another loyal woman who devoted her life to a dead ruler. But behind that official story was a human being whose freedom had been stolen in the name of tradition. And perhaps that is the most dangerous kind of cruelty, the kind disguised as virtue. Because when suffering is called honorable, people stop questioning it. And if you enjoy dark historical stories, forgotten tragedies, and disturbing tales from the past, make sure to subscribe to Borrowed Time for more videos like this. Here we uncover the hidden horrors, lost lives, and disturbing truths buried deep within history.